Okay. Well, I'm excited today because I have invited Sandy Rubenstein from Camp Wingate Kirkland on Cape Cod to do a little interview for a blog post instead of writing because, hey, we're trying new things. And I think that's what Sandy and her team at Camp Wingate Kirkland are doing, trying new things virtually to engage campers and families now that we're all kind of legally stuck in our houses. So Sandy, welcome. Glad to
Hi,
have
Sarah.
you
Thanks for
here.
having me.
Yeah. So can you just start off and tell us a little bit about your camp in general? What is Wingate Kirkland like? What is it about? And then we'll talk about what you're doing right now with your virtual programs.
Sure. Wingate Kirkland is a co-ed overnight and day camp in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Our day camp runs for campers who are 4 to 12, and our overnight camp is for kids 7 to 15. The camp was founded in 1957 by two guys who wanted to create a place where kids could be empowered to design their summer based on what they were interested in. And as the third owners of camp, we have continued that mission and that philosophy in allowing kids to explore what they're interested in, discover new things, with the premise of using daily choice to do that. So every day, our counselors advertise fun things that they're going to offer, and the campers get to choose what they want to do. And if they like it, they can do it again. And if they don't, they can try something different the next day.
Cool. Well, and I've been to Wingate Kirkland several times, got to work with you all a couple summers ago. And I think I think this will be received as a compliment. You guys are weird. Like, you're not like, your choices aren't just like arts and crafts or archery. Like your choices are all like, maybe those things are included,
Well,
but they're all sorts of things.
I think that we love that I mean, I wouldn't say that we're exactly like Las Vegas, but like what happens in Vegas stays like what happens at camp only makes sense at camp.
Sure.
So when you sign up for deer hunter survival and or fox hunt, and you're the fox and you have to hide in the woods and everybody's out to find you, it only makes sense at camp. Also things like Marshmallow General Hospital or Department of Motor Vehicles, or hunted. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have been a fugitive wanted by several departments of, criminal justice at the camp system. And I've been tied to trees, I've been interrupted. And that's the spontaneity and the fun and the living in the moment is what makes us special. But at the same time, also, we still have tennis and we have soccer and we have basketball and swimming. And I think that the diversity is what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
And I think also, especially in a day like today, in a world that we live in today, is learning how to not take ourselves so seriously.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, creativity and like goofiness just seems to be a really authentic part of your camp culture.
So
Which is really cool.
I think I've told you about this activity once before, and one of your biggest fans, Alice Hafley, I can't take ownership of it, but this was like an Alice original, was Burglary 101.
Great.
So Alice created a maze out of yarn in some trees and told the kids they were robbers. And that there was this bag of money, which was actually just trash, in the middle of this maze, and told them that they needed to work. They could not touch the lasers. So the maze was lasers. They couldn't touch the lasers, and they had to work together to get the bag of money out of the bank. And so on the surface, it's like parents are like, seriously, you're teaching my kid to be a common criminal? No. You're actually teaching your kid problem solving.
Yeah.
Communication, teamwork. And so like, if you take a kid who on the surface doesn't, you have kids who don't necessarily have a good job of partnering up with somebody, but the idea of stealing money from a bank changes. You flip it around, you have them looking at it in a different scenario, and all of a sudden they're working together with the unlikeliest pair of candidates and they make it happen. And that's what's so cool.
Cool.
So it's about teaching life. Ultimately, we're teaching life skills.
Right. Well, and one of those life skills is creativity and kind of doing other things when, your first option didn't work out. It seems like that's what you all are doing with your virtual camp programming. I don't even know if you're actually calling it virtual camp, but tell us how you came about doing online programs for your camp community right now? Why did you decide to do it? And what are your objectives?
So when the quarantine went in place, I knew immediately that I knew that we needed to do camp programming. Knew that we needed not as much about for the kids, but more for parents. We needed to create a way for kids to be engaged. And it was less about the content, but I wanted, when kids are home alone, they're losing that core social interaction that they get going to school every day. And whether you have siblings or you have parents, if what kind of home your environment is, it was important for us to create a way where kids were interacting and talking, because those key skills that we have will be lost. And we wanted to create a diversion where kids could come with some different reality of what they're looking at home and not having to talk about what's in the news. So the first time we did it, it was a full day. It was a full 9-hour day of programming, and it
Wow.
was amazing. And, we started at 8:30 and we ended at 6 o'clock at night, and it was awesome. And this was before schools had really gotten their act together of what the learning was going to look like.
Mhm.
And it was good timing. And what was nice about it was the same way that you do what speaks to you at camp. I mean, everybody has to choose something, but we created a schedule. There was something for everybody, and you came and you could come and go. And we had a cast of characters, but and the staff without unanimously was excited about being part of it. And it went off with such great success. We realized, okay, we can't continue this like long model, because it was exhausting. You need to have people to administrate it. You need to have staff who are engaged. It was a lot for us to be able to ask our staff to be that involved. So we thought, what if we just did an hour every day? Just 1 hour every day. And we've become like that, that, I mean, I remember as a kid, like at 4 o'clock every day, that's when the Brady Bunch was on. We've become that after school special treat that
Yeah.
everybody expects to be there. And sometimes it's for everybody and sometimes it's not. So we've tried to create a diversity of programming that interests everyone. And it doesn't really matter what it is. Still, it's that 10 minutes as we're waiting for everybody to get there. Hey, how are you doing? What are you doing? Let's talk. The interaction is so key for kids right now. That's I think where, we're continuing to be successful.
So the kids,
That was a long answer.
no, that's great. I love the idea of the after school special thing, because that's something that kids right now don't really have. Like if they want to watch a show, it's just on demand. But part of the fun of your show coming on at 4 o'clock was like the anticipation or the special carved out time to have it. So I love kind of taking that concept and moving it toward these types of programs. And so you have counselors who are running different programs every day, or tell us like what some of your best
So we have a
programs
bunch of different, we've done it with we're recognizing that kids are also, and it's evolving. It has to evolve. You can't, the thing about with this whole virtual programming is you create something and you have to be able to pivot quickly, because the school day changes. And so kids are the teachers are shifting the day. So kids are ending later. So we had to shift, and they're spending so much time now in front of their computer, they're actually not interested in doing things. So we've evolved in many different ways. So we have a different counselor every day. It's an hour long. So this week we had TikTok dancing, we had sports talk, yoga. Trying to think of some of that. We had Shark Tank, where kids had to invent something that was going to make the world be better. And the more counselors that get involved and support their colleagues, the more interesting it gets.
Sure.
And so we've had a lot of different things. We did Jeopardy. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. We had songwriting earlier in the week. That was a ton of fun. A sing along. So those are some of this, like we'll get a bunch of kids. We might get somewhere like about, between 12 and 20 kids in a Zoom chat, and the staff are involved and they're engaged. Oh, we did a really cool was, it was like a coding period. So the counselor put her screen on where the kids could all see, and they worked together to do some coding and make some animation happen together. And so each
Cool.
child took turns, and that mean they only ended up making something that lasted about 20 seconds, but the collaborative working and the taking turns and sharing and giving feedback. And so that whole process continued in the same model if they were working on it at camp.
Yeah.
So there's you sit at your, there's the log on at 4:00 programming that we're doing, and it's something different every day. I think the real thing that's hitting home, there's two things, is the virtual bunk activities. So we're taking last year's bunk groups and carving out an app.
Oop, Sandy, we have to pause for a second. My internet's unstable. We're
It's
back.
really,
Internet's
it's
back.
really hard. It's really hard because it's like, how do you be sensitive? And in a time like, I actually don't want to, I don't think it's time to be picking up the phone and calling people. It's hard,
Yeah.
and I hear camp directors are like, we are recruiting people. And I'm like, I can't believe that it's hard to, I think it's a hard conversation to have right now, that they're going to, when they're ready to call us, they will.
So how have you communicated what you're doing to your families? And what has been their response?
It was really cool. You froze with your eyes closed.
Okay, I'm back. Did you
Um,
hear my question though? I don't know why my internet connection's unstable. It's totally my computer, not Sandy's.
that's okay. I had today, it was, so, we're once a week, so on Fridays we're sending an email to our parents, and we're basically telling them nothing. I mean, we don't have anything to tell them, and we feel like we have this moral obligation to say something so that they know that we're not ghosting them,
Mhm.
but we don't have an answer. So until we know something, we're just sort of giving them this, we don't want to give them false hope, and we also don't want to put them in fear, and we don't want them to feel rejected. So instead we're just saying, like, we get this is hard, and we're being very transparent and honest in that this is really hard, and we're impatient too, but we don't have anything to tell you.
Right.
So we're here, and we're still doing all the fun stuff that we're doing, so we hope that you'll just ride it out with us until we have a better sense. And I can't tell you how amazing our families have been. Things might change, and they may have sing a different tune when they hear, if they have to hear there's no camp.
Mhm.
But for the time being, I think that they're the ones that we have heard from have been really supportive of saying, we recognize this is tough. We're so hopeful. And
So, as a owner director, obviously you have so many things on your plate. How and why have you prioritized these virtual camp offerings? Because I imagine it does take some of your precious hours each week to coordinate this stuff and put it on. It doesn't sound like you're charging for the programs at the.
we're not monetizing on this at all. And I feel like this is the cherry on top to everything else. I want people to know that and if that's a mistake, if I'm missing out, oh well. To me, this is goodwill. This is me making good deposits in the emotional savings account, which if I have to withdraw on later because I have to say there's no camp, I know that I've made a massive investment in my families, and they know they're going to know that it was done for the right reasons. So I have a great team of staff who've stepped up, and they want to help. And so part of, they're the ones who are out there recruiting. And I'm the person who I feel I owe it to the families to be supervising the activities every day. So there's always one counselor and me or Will on every call, so that there's always a backup, so that the counselor can focus, but that we're monitoring the chat, and we're seeing, some of the unnecessary behavior, because sometimes you get somebody who just doesn't want to behave, and that can be tough.
Mhm.
So it does take some time, but we've carved it out because we feel it's important. And I think that that's why making it be 1 hour a day was really intentional. I'm really excited to tell you something about what we just kicked off on Tuesday. So you're familiar with our challenge program. So our campers finishing 7th, 8th, and 9th grade are in challenge. And that's a program beyond what we do to challenge kids physically, mentally, socially, emotionally. So we do it by climbing and biking and hiking and doing bike riding and stand-up paddleboarding while they're discovering Cape Cod. And the idea is to do team building skills, confidence building skills, communication skills. So that we saw a dip in our participation. Sorry, my tongue
Yeah,
tied.
I gotcha.
We saw a dip from our older campers, and we were trying to really figure out how to get them involved. So
Sure.
on Tuesday, Billy, who's one of our lodge leaders, came up with this. He called it the challenge. So he nominated 3 kids, one in each specific age group. And he said to them, your age group needs to collectively walk the distance of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, and the team that does it first wins. So he kicked it off on Tuesday. And so the first kid had, and the rules were very specific. You have 60 minutes. You need to take a selfie of yourself. You need to download a free app to show us that you did the mileage. And then you have to tag somebody else to do it.
Hmm.
I cannot tell you the feedback we've gotten from parents of, how did you get my kid off the couch?
Right.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, when we started it, Sarah, we thought it was just going to be for our current enrolled campers. We've had alums, multiple years of alums who have decided to jump in on the program.
Cool.
And so if you look on so Billy's posted on Instagram, like a snapshot of like the picture of Cape Cod, and you can see they've identified themselves about like what their banquet was or what challenge group they are, and as where they've made progress across Cape Cod. And we're not engaging with them in, virtually, in the sense like we're not having a dialogue. Yep, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So you can see the kids who would have been in the oldest age group, they did it within minutes. They kicked it off so quick. You can see they're already up at P-Town. It says challenge 3. And it's brilliant.
So cool.
So, go ahead.
So I love that for so many reasons, but also because virtual camp or virtual camp engagement does not mean sitting in front of Zoom. Like there's no Zoom component to that. Maybe there's a celebration or something at the end. I don't know what you plan, but like there's no sitting in front of your.
Tuesday is when we do challenge. So the big component of challenge is community service. And we spent a huge amount of time today talking about service and being helpful to others, and how can we quantify kids for their using the same challenge, because the kids really got into it, and other people, how can we quantify being safe, because that's, number one is being safe, but doing things to help other people. And so we were working on, in your own, your insular community of helping your parents rake the leaves, take out the trash. So we're going to do some stuff, and we're going to document it to give some examples of how kids can be, knock on your neighbor's door and take and see if you can rake their leaves because they might be elderly, but finding ways that kids can do something to help somebody else, to be selfless. So that's our next challenge. And then he's working on, I think the next one is he's trying to do an elevation one. So he was like, how many times could you go up and down the stairs and then climb the elevation of Mount Washington we have a week, it's evolving week to week, but this idea of, it's all they have to do is put a selfie, but the kids are really committed to being part of the competition. And now we have alums doing it too.
So cool. Well, and I love how it's like oriented around this camp tradition that was already there. So it's like very campy at the same time. And really, I mean, there's no materials needed. There's really no cost to anybody.
And parents are happy because their kids are getting active.
Right. Yeah. If we think about, I love how you even started this conversation. I think a lot of times when we're talking about, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We have to do a virtual camp program. As camp directors, we're thinking, what am I going to do for camp? Or, but really thinking about the end user of the product as being the parent and the child probably helps you create even better programming. Right.
And I don't think you need to, it doesn't have to be so, we're teaching you something, because that's really the kids, they're doing so much teaching and learning.
Yeah.
But rather to have a conversation and be engaged and talk, having a dialogue. I mean, because I know for my own daughter who's 9, our local school system, we're not in a place yet where they are able to interact with her teacher. So her learning is all self-directed. So she's not engaged in any way. So she was so excited yesterday when she had her bunk conversation to have a conversation with her bunk mates from the summer. And Katie, her lodge leader, came up with this idea of pick an inanimate object in camp. And if that object could talk, what would be the advice that object would give to new campers? And some of the stuff was hysterical. Like one of the campers picked the top bunk, and she really was like intentional about, and she made it seem as though like, why you would pick the top bunk versus the bottom bunk, but also like that the top bunk had emotion. And it was really cool. And the kids got into it. Like we have swans in our pond they're meant to deter the geese, but they do a lousy job. They're fake. And so they were talking about, what if the swans could give advice? And it was just a silly conversation, but hearing the kids just giggle and talk and they delighted in it was only for 30 minutes, but it was probably the highlight of their day.
Yeah.
I know it was the highlight of my day.
Yeah. Well, so simple to set up and kind of just what they needed. You're like, keep on thinking like as a camp, we can't compete with like Disney or Sesame Street or these other people that are like making all these professional videos teaching kids things, right? Like,
But I think we all forget that, like, I know it doesn't quantify, like it doesn't make sense, but like a camp counselor is no different in celebrity status than some of the people on Disney. To
oh,
a
totally.
9-year-old
Yeah.
or a 10-year-old, a camp counselor is as idolized as some of these Disney characters.
Yeah.
So the ability to be in a Zoom chat and be able to see, oh my gosh, where do you live?
Right.
To have
Here's
that
your cat. Like,
yeah, oh my, and just that you're talking to me in the winter and
yeah.
you're a real person. Because they don't get to interact with the celebrity on the Disney Channel. It's a very passive environment. It's a passive experience.
Right.
But to be able to talk to Brad, the guitar counselor, and write a song with him, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's so cool. So, I know you're still waiting to see how everything plays out, what the laws are in terms of, whether or not you can run this summer. You're kind of at the mercy of a lot of outside forces. But whether it's in 2020 or 2021, how do you think your experience supporting your community in these virtual ways has changed you or changed your program, going forward into the future? If things do go back kind of close to normal, are there things that you've been doing that you'd keep doing or things that you're thinking about in a new way because of this experience?
I think for sure we've also been doing our campfire every Saturday night
Okay.
virtually, and that we've bridged decades of alumni from some of the original campers that went to camp in 1957, grandparents whose children went to camp and now they have grandchildren who go to camp. And it's really amazing to see these legacy families all participating in Campfire together. We had the founder come and read the story on Saturday night, which is a tradition of being
Wow.
a Campfire. I think at the core, we need to be the same. Our intention is to be the same thing, is helping kids be their best self, helping kids to celebrate them for their successes, for their quirkiness, and for their interest, and not pigeonholing them into a box of you have to be the best at everything. Be the best version of you. And so that hasn't deviated. There's going to be some social limits on how we can interact with, and how many and how some of the specifics.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're prepared to try and keep our program to the core similar in giving kids a safe place to be themselves.
Good. Cool. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you would like to share, or you think other camp?
I would like to ask you a question.
Ooh, flipping the script.
Would you if you were quarantined with if you were quarantined with the first person you saw a concert of, who would it be?
Well, it would be exciting because It would be the 93.1 WDRQ Electric Kringle Jingle, which was a holiday concert
That
at
was
the
your very
house
first
in Auburn
concert?
Hills in Detroit, and I was in about 8th grade. And I don't remember who performed at the Electric Kringle Jingle, but it was a bunch of like B minus level like boy band type people in like 1998. So them, and it would be loud and exciting and very Christmassy. So that's
That's
where I would
fun.
be.
We did have a boy band appreciation activity. That was one of the things I forgot to tell you.
Well,
Was
I
on
could have
the
been there with some,
We did boy
first
band
person evidence.
appreciation. Yeah, we did boy band appreciation. I think, what I would say is, we're we don't have a playbook for how this is all working,
Right.
and for people who like to plan, camp directors like to plan. This is really hard to not being able to plan. But remind yourself that kids just want to have fun.
Right.
And we have these spontaneous moments in the summertime where we literally just everybody stops and like, and it's initiated by me, and like everybody drops to the ground and lays on the rocks and looks at the clouds. And I think when you start to recognize like and see how precious this time is to connect with campers in a way, because in the summertime you're too busy doing a million things,
Mm-hmm.
but sit on those, be part of these conversations, be part of these activities, because this is where you're making, like I said, those investments in kids and making those connections, because you're never going to have another time like this to do it. We're going to be so busy washing everybody's hands and sanitizing camp, we're not going to have time to get to connect with kids and hear all this stuff. And I think that it's really important to do that.
Yeah. How cool that when kids get back to camp, they'll know you even better than they did before because you spent time with them online, throughout this precarious time. So it's like
It's
a really
so
cool
fun.
journey.
It's so fun. And I'm and enjoying it. My Will and I look forward to Saturday nights when we do Campfire more than anything, and seeing all these 17 years of kids that have come to camp while we owned camp,
Wow.
and counselors, and it's just, I think we have to look at the positive of it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Sandy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. If
Thanks
people,
for letting me be here.
yeah, if people are interested in learning more about your camp or getting in contact with you, what would be the best way to do that?
You can email me or call me or check our website out. It's easy. I'm Hey Sandy, because that's how kids call me at camp. That's my name. It's Hey Sandy. Hey Sandy. Hey Sandy. Hey Sandy. So my email is heysandy@campwk.com.
Okay.
Or you can find me on the web or call me, or carrier pigeons. I'd like to see one of those.
It would be the right time to train, one of those carrier pigeons. So maybe that'll be our next webinar once you've mastered that art. Cool. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll be
Thank
back
you.
with another great camp
Stay
director.
healthy and safe.
Yes, you too.